everyone, I'm Umi and I welcome everyone to today's live session. I'm really excited because after a long we are going to have it. And today I have a very interesting personality with me today, Aarti Upadhyay ma'am. So let me give a little bit introduction about her. So Aarti Upadhyay is a seasoned marketing and communications professional with over 14 years of experience spanning advertising, IT, government consulting, and she's also a postgraduate from St. Xavier's College, Ahmedabad. Her debut book, Remnants, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, just correct me if I'm wrong, a collection of grief and hope, is a heartfelt exploration of love, loss, and resilience, themes that reflect her deep engagement with human emotion and inner worlds. Aarti is an avid reader who lives and thrives on stories, both real and imagined. As someone who has spent her professional life shaping narratives, this collection marks a personal milestone in expressing her own. So, ma'am, welcome to this live session. We are really very privileged to have you here with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
So, ma'am, as it says that it's your debut book. First of all, I would like to congratulate on you on that because I think writing a book itself is a big milestone. And I say this to almost everyone I meet that this is something you have accomplished in your life. So, would you like to share something like initial thought or any kind of words you have?
This book wasn't a planned thing for me. It just came out as a process of healing, if I can start with saying that. It was a personal journey of going through grief, and I was writing my journal entries, which were mostly poetic in nature, and that's how the book came into existence.
Okay. Uh, so, ma'am, would you also like to put a little light on how did you come up with this name or title for this book?
So, remnants it means in life, or it's basically an act of letting go. At its core, it means that, in life, whatever it is, whatever is happening with you, everything in the end will, you just have to let go. Life in itself is an act of letting go. So the title comes from that. It reminds us that at the end, everything will be taken away from you, but what stays with you is what you carry in your heart. So, remnants means it's not just about the loss or the grief or the process or the journey. It's about what you carry in your heart when you move forward in life.
True. Uh, so, ma'am, was there any specific moment or experience that has really sparkled in the entire book? Very specific thing that you have.
There was one, so I used to go through therapy sessions. I had to, with my personal breakup, it was very difficult for me to deal with emotions and all. So I decided to take professional help, and I met my psychiatrist. So when I first met him, during my first therapy session, he told me that if you want to move on, you will have to sit with your emotions and feel your pain. There is no other way of moving on. I remember he told very specifically, we will move on by embracing the pain and not by running away from it. So that became the foundation of the book. And there used to be a 10 to 12 days interval between my sessions. So I used to get enough time to process my emotions. I used to make notes and I used to write journal entries. So there was this one particular poem in the book, which is called A Cup of Indigo, in which I invite shame to coffee. And I wrote that in the night, and in the morning, I shared it with my friend. She read it and she really liked it. So then she was like, why don't you just keep on writing more. So I kept writing more. Then I gave those all poems and my raw emotional entries, or journal entries, to another friend of mine to read. So he read it and he liked most of it, and that's how the book came into existence.
So, ma'am, like when you write something which is very, very personal to you, something like grief, loss, or letting go of something, and then you have the courage to show it to others, what do you feel exactly? I mean, that I believe that will take a lot of courage to give someone to read about it because people can have different narratives, perspective about things. So, like, was that like ever occurred to your mind?
I was scared initially. See, writing the poems wasn't difficult for me because I was using poetry and writing as an outlet to vent out. So that wasn't the challenge. Challenge was publishing this and bringing it out for the people. But along with the fear, there was also this hope that if my journey through grief can help one person feel a little less alone, I think my book has done its work. That risk was worth it, to be able to help someone. And whosoever read the poems told me that, they'll find a companion, something that I was looking for in my dark moments, in my time where I needed support. And I had support from family and friends and everyone, but a lot of people do not get that support. So this book was written with an intention that, if it can make one person little less alone, if it can make them feel that, where they are standing, someone else already stood there, someone else has already felt what they're going through, then the journey is worth it.
So, like writing all these things out, personal, like journaling and all, was this idea like directly came to your mind, or this was something came through the professional help you seek? Because a lot of times people do journal and they feel better at the end of the day after doing that. So, what was your idea of journaling?
So basically, my uh, therapist and my psychiatrist told me, Dr. Sarthak Dave, he told me that there's no other way. I said, my first reaction and my first conversation with him was where I told him that, I don't want to feel what I'm feeling. I want to move on. So he said that happens only when you sit with your pain. You cannot cut short the process of pain and grief. So to for the first 7 days, he told me that, just feel what you're feeling and just try to process your emotions. So the best way for me to process emotion was to writing it down. And there is something called narrative therapy, where you narrate and you talk about your pain, and then once you have written it down, you read it out loud. So that helped me when I was I was writing it down and then I was talking to myself and trying to understand what I have written. It, in a way, helped me to disassociate with the emotion after I wrote it. So it was a good process.
And like, was there any specific poet who influenced your writing style, or it just something that came out of your own style?
Most of it is very raw and unfiltered. If you see, there is no proper format of poetry that I have used. Like, it has to be four lines or 4 line stanza or 8 line stanza. It's not like that. It was mainly written with the purpose of venting it out. But having said that, there are two authors in particular who have influenced, not influenced, but I admire their writing style. One is John Didion, and when it comes to grief, she is irreplaceable. I mean, nobody can write or express grief the way she does. She did. And another is Ocean Wong. His collection of poems is, with the tender brutality that he writes, is simply amazing. I wish I could write like both of them. Yeah.
Um, ma'am, also, like, have you ever felt that putting that grief into collection for people outside? Your relationship with the grief you used to have, like, you said that you don't want to feel the pain, you just want to run away, like, from it. So, how does that make a difference now? How do you see pain currently?
See, there is every story has a journey towards it. Like you transform when
Hmm.
you accept your pain. True healing begins when you accept your pain. So this entire journey was about accepting my pain, making peace with it, and moving on without trying to run away from it. So this entire book is about accepting that what has happened, what lingers, what memories you collect, and how you transform yourself in the process and move on. So there is a psychological term for it called sublimation, in which you put your pain to use and make something meaningful out of it. So my entire journey of grief was a sort of, in a way, sublimation, I can say, that helped me to transform my pain and make it into a collection of poetry. A lot of writers have done that. Um, a lot of painters have been able to do it. A lot of musicians, they take inspiration from sorrow and it becomes an anchor in their creative journey process.
Right. Uh, so, ma'am, if you imagine yourself as a poet, like, will it always be someone who writes about grief, emotion, or you may change the topics as well in the future? Like, have you ever given thought about it?
No, I believe in writing something that I feel. So, I cannot, I'll be like, open to writing poems, happy poems. And as of now, I am writing and reading more about grief, but going forward, I can think about writing a short collection of stories or maybe something in fiction. But it's not like, I'll stick to sorrow and pain. I can think
Right.
about. I even this entire collection has some poems which are very funny,
Hmm.
and humor is part of my writing. So you'll see that in the book.
Definitely. Uh, so, like, has it ever occurred to you that, you are writing your heart out, and sometimes after you have done writing, you see your collection and you realize that this is way too much pain. Like, I'm pouring a lot here, so I need to stop or I need to cut it out. Like, have that ever came to your mind?
See, there's a saying that you are not a writer if you cannot pour your heart out or tell your story with utmost vulnerability and honesty. If I cut down certain parts of me, then that authenticity, that the pain and its intensity will go away. The purpose was not to mellow down pain or make it suitable for certain audience to read it. It was my journey and all that I felt, and it had to be shared the way it was felt. So there was no like no edits in there. There is, I mean, it just doesn't work that way that you cut yourself some part out because it feels too intense. Can't be done that way.
True. Uh, you are publishing this book and it's going out in the world. What do you expect out of your readers? How should they take it?
I would just like to tell my readers to read this poem and believe in themselves that there is always a light at the end of the tunnel. And even if they are going through grief, it's not the end of the world, it's just a process. Somebody was there at some point of time, and I hope people are able to find a companion in this book, something that I was looking for when I was going through my grief and journey. And I hope they find that companion in this book.
Right. And as you have shared that you have already taken the professional help in the times when it's needed. So would you also like to highlight something related to that? Because people nowadays somehow people are becoming aware, but also very certain section of the society or people who can afford therapy or who can be there. So do you have anything to say to them? Because maybe grief can be looked at differently. If we see a grief from different lens, it is different, obviously. So, what do you suggest for youngsters, for people who can afford and cannot afford? And this is a very tricky question. If you choose not to answer, that's also okay. But it's just something came out of my mind randomly.
No, no, I would definitely like to answer that question. So, for the people who cannot afford therapy, there's a lot of content out there, good content out there. See, first thing is to realize that you are not alone in your journey of grief. And one good thing about emotions is said that, if we look at emotions from a distance, anything for 3 minutes, if you just sit with that emotion and do absolutely nothing, it passes by. That feeling, whatever you are feeling, whether it is anger, happiness, sadness, it will subside. So if you cannot, and I am not trying to generalize pain, it can never be generalized or quantified, saying that its intensity is too much. What I feel may be too much for me, what somebody else is feeling, for that person it might be a huge thing. For everybody, their pain is the greatest thing that is happening to them. But for those who cannot afford therapy, I think there are government hospitals where therapy is very, very much made affordable. If you cannot, if you are someone who is very shy about going to therapy, or you feel like you cannot afford it, look at the content. There is plenty of things out there. If you cannot even do that, talk to your close people, and I'm sure there'll be someone who will help you out. And all people need is just that courage to go out and tell, and everybody is there to listen. So do not give up on that hope that you're alone. That's never going to happen. And for people who can afford therapy, see, if you're a working professional, you may not get, like, if I had the luxury to step back and slow down in my career. Not a lot of people may not have that choice. So in that case, taking professional help helps a lot. Your entire perspective on grief, my perspective on grief changed when I took professional help. My therapist helped me a lot in understanding how I'm supposed to navigate the pain and what I was feeling. So sometimes professional helps, not sometimes, most of the time, professional helps is something that is needed. And if you can find that, like, 45 minutes or 1 hour for yourself, you will be able to move on from your grief or your pain easily. Then you spend your time struggling with it. So my general advice to everyone is, do not hesitate from taking professional help. And there is help is available in plenty of ways. And for people who can afford it, for people who cannot afford it, there is help out there. All you have to do is just look out.
True. So also whatever ma'am said, and if you want to read this book, you can visit Amazon and our website. You can find there. Please read it and let us know how do you feel about it, or if you have any specific way of dealing with your emotions, grief, just let us know, because this world just gets better when we share things. And people always share good things, happy things in their internet or be it any public gathering. So it's also like we should be collectively aware of sharing those parts which we don't do already. So it's a request to everyone who is watching this video right now. And ma'am, it was really a pleasure of me, like to have a conversation with you. We are really, really lucky that we got to have this talks. It's not just about a live session, but also a lot of lived experiences that you shared. And I think someone has to be really, really lucky or privileged to have that opportunity. So thank you so much, ma'am, for being here with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you. And thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. Bye bye.
Bye.